Hey lovelies. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about networking. And from what I've learned, in my opinion, networking falls into two categories. One is the networking you do in order to increase your audience, and the second is the networking you do in order to link with industry professionals. Obviously, the latter links into the first one as well. To me, they're inextricably linked. They're both important and both need to be approached with the same level of care and attention. So we all know networking is important, right? The big question a lot of us face is, how do we network? I like to treat networking as I do making new friends. So I invite people into a conversation by asking them a question. I take interest in them first. Networking is all about building relationships. Please remember this and make it part of your soul. Networking is all about building relationships. How you do this is very much up to you, but one thing holds true no matter what approach you adopt. People will not give you something unless you first show an interest in them. Asking for support simply doesn't crack it, unless you have already established strong bonds with those people. Learning how to network from a place of really wanting to connect with people rather than from a place of neediness will totally transform your results, and I speak from personal experience when I say that. Successful networking, or networking etiquette, however you want to put it, is quite simply about being a nice person and not spamming. Treat people the way that you would like to be treated yourself. Do you enjoy receiving long messages from strangers demanding that they check out their amazing work? Neither do I. So keeping in regular contact with your audience by way of newsletters is the perfect way to nourish your relationships once you have made the connection. Personally, I send out newsletters twice a month, and to me this feels enough to stay pleasantly present without having a spammy presence. What you share in your newsletters is up to you. I like to give people insights into what I've been working on in the studio because I'm a music producer. I share blog posts. I send people demo tracks and ask them for my feedback. It's all about creating a relationship, cultivating relationship, giving people an insight into who you are as a person, into your world and what you're up to. So send your newsletters out by way of a mailing list service provider like MailerLite. That's what I use and I love it. Or MailChimp is also good. Never, ever, ever send out newsletters or emails to large groups of people without a mailing list service provider. Google will flag your email address as a spammer, and then when you're sending emails out to people individually, they'll just go straight into people's spam folders. So right now, I live in the middle of nowhere, so getting to any sort of networking event is pretty much impossible. But that's okay, because with the internet, the world is my oyster. I personally have grown to love Twitter as a way of growing my audience and forming new connections with people who I think would be interested in my output. I treat it as I would a real-life conversation. I start by introducing myself. Hello, thank you so much for following me. I'm Liz, an electronic music artist, creative coach, and lover of connections. I formed a lot of beautiful friendships through music, because I have. May I initiate a potential friendship with you by asking, what's your favourite music to listen to? A conversation then often follows, during which a connection is made and interest is piqued. Once I feel it is appropriate, and only once I feel it's appropriate, I then tell the person that I'd love to send them a link to download some tracks for free, and I ask if they'd be interested. If they say yes, I thank them, and I ask which email address I can send it to. Then the connection has been formed, and then I continue to nourish that relationship by way of my newsletters. Thank people. Always thank people, whether it's for their time or their email addresses. They are giving you their attention, and you need to acknowledge that. So you might be asking yourself now, how do you get people to follow you in the first place? And that's a really good question. The answer is actually really simple. Find popular and active people out there on Twitter with a similar output to you and follow their followers. I personally follow the followers of other music artists who have a similar sound to me and who are popular and active on Twitter. When people follow you back, send them a message and initiate the conversation. When someone follows you back, it's also polite to pop to their profile, and if you see something that resonates with you, retweet it or like it. You're showing an interest in them and what they have to say, and that does good things for building the foundations of the relationship you are wishing to establish with this person. Subscribe to newsletters and updates that are in line with your message and interest, and use these as material to curate interesting content for your Twitter and other social media feeds. Schedule it into a social media auto poster like Recur Post, so that when people visit your profile, they see interesting content. Combine these posts about your own creative output. Again, it goes back to you showing an interest in other people first. It sends out a really important message. This will also help in your quest to network with people within your industry. If they visit your social media platforms, they will see that you have interesting things to say, that you care enough to share other people's content, and that you're not focused solely on your own self-promotion. Most importantly, engage with your audience. If people are commenting, comment back and thank them for checking out what you have to say. If people retweet or like your posts, retweet and like their post. What goes around comes around. If I'm contacting someone within the industry, it's slightly different, but the principles always remain the same. I comment on their work. I compliment them on it. And if it's relevant, I explain how it related to or helped me in some way. People like being acknowledged for their work. Most importantly, when contacting people from the industry, do your research. If you're aiming to connect with professionals with a view to get your work promoted or licensed, or if you're seeking representation of some sort, make sure you are contacting people relevant to what you're creating. When including examples of your work, send links. So for music, links to private SoundCloud playlists are popular. Dropbox also works, or a link to a private web page. Don't send links that expire, and never ever send emails with big files or big attachments to them. People really don't appreciate that. If you are sending music, 3 to 4 tracks maximum, unless they have specifically asked you to send them more. In your initial email, introduce yourself, but keep it brief. Demonstrate you've done your research by commenting on the company or the individual in some way. Then let them know the reason you are contacting them. Thank them for their time. This is so important and is often overlooked. A few short paragraphs is all you need. Keep it simple. Remember that people are busy. When following up, leave it 3 to 4 weeks at least. Sometimes you can even stretch it to 6 weeks. You want to be pleasantly present, not a persistently buzzing gnat in someone's ear. And when following up, even if you might be frustrated that they haven't replied, be polite. Don't burn your bridges by making assumptions about people without actually getting to know them first. This can also be a really good way of determining whether or not you can trust who you're networking with. More often than not, if the person you're engaging with is real and genuine, they will be willing and able to maintain a proper conversation with you, as if you were chatting face to face. Avoid following people with no profile picture. Don't follow people who haven't been active for long periods of time, and unfollow people if they haven't followed you back within a week. Sometimes people have bots set up on their profiles that will send out automatic messages or comments to you. If this happens, just unfollow them, and if you want to, you can block them. You can spot a bot because usually the message is totally out of context and it's spammy. They'll keep coming to you. How long you choose to spend networking is again up to you. I can sometimes spend about 2-3 hours a day on it, whether it's connecting with people on Twitter, posting in Daydream Believers, or answering or sending emails. I'd recommend a daily habit to keep up momentum, but always prioritize your creative output. Personally, I reserve my studio time for the mornings, which for the most part are kept internet free. Then I'll switch on the internet after lunch and turn my attention to networking and doing admin in the afternoon. When networking, bear this in mind. When we want something so badly, sometimes our grasp on that thing suffocates its chances of ever happening. I'll say that again. So when networking, bear this in mind, when we want something so badly, sometimes our grasp on that thing suffocates its chances of ever happening. So yes, we want to network and reach out, but if we overdo it, we will come across as pushy and unpleasant, and the door will be slammed in our faces, and that's not what we want. Like cultivating a beautiful garden, successful networking requires patience, dedication, and commitment. At the beginning, whilst you're still building momentum, it requires a lot of effort, and you might be disappointed with the results. Do not let this discourage you. Do not let this turn you into a pushy networker either. Over time, as momentum builds, you will find that the networking will start to take care of itself. But until then, patience. Pazienza, as they say here in Italy. Rome wasn't built in a day. Your audience won't grow in a day either. Keep at it, and if you've got any questions, post them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for your attention.